we have to change the quiz time, and I will do that. So all the deadlines would be at midnight. That's a good reminder. Thank you, Tianyu, and thank you, Mihal. I will eventually do it. This is the exam review session. I will go over some questions from older exams next time with you. Today, I'm going to remind you some of the more important items that you need to work on between now and your exam date. Your exam date is the same date as specified by the university. I've shared those with some of you. I haven't shared the picture on Reginet yet. I will post that. You can choose to take the exam at your time with your classmates or at the other section's time. So it's your choice. One of them is in the morning, one of them is in the afternoon. So depending on your schedule and your life, one may work better than the other. And then today we're going to talk about velocity and cycle time with some examples. This is something we haven't done in the past, so it will be a relatively new item that would appear on your exam as well. So just helping you get set in this mood. We are in the second phase of our learning in this class. This was Agile learning period, and we took a few items, about 40 items from Agile Certified Practitioner document by PMI. And then so we added those to your learning backlog, and you're working on those. Some of those items I'll talk about in my lecture. Some of them are dependent on you and your classmates to do research and share learning activities about. So this is some of the Agile values from Agile Manifesto. I want you to just have this at the, just be more ready to talk about Agile and some of the related values. So in Agile, we prefer or we take something over some our processes and tools. What is that? Or we focus on something rather than focusing on comprehensive documentation. We value something over contract negotiation. We value something over following a plan. What are those items? So we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That's why you have pull system. That's why you have your daily stand-up. We value working software over comprehensive documentation. We value customer collaboration. That's why you have sprints and you have those review sessions with your external stakeholders. Over contract negotiation and responding to change over following a plan. Just setting your mind where we are right now in the semester and what we're doing. So there are, when you think about project communication and project quality management, there are some metrics that we have to measure and we have to communicate with our stakeholders, external or internal. Some of them you would communicate with your team members. The reason I have this table here is that we didn't get a chance to discuss it during quality management. We didn't get a chance to discuss this during the communication management. This is a table from Marchuka book, and it talks about different metrics related to process, product, and project. So product is the outcome of what you're doing, yes? If I look at that outcome only and I measure things about that outcome, that would be product-oriented metrics. So I just look at what you give me, that's it. Sometimes to understand what you got, you have to look at the steps, processes that help the team create that outcome or deliver that product. So those metrics are process-related metrics. So looking at the steps, processes before the final outcome is delivered. And some metrics are related to project as a whole, the example of which are earned value metrics that we calculated last week. and we reviewed just this past Monday. So schedule variance, cost variance, schedule performance index, cost performance index, ETC and EAC are project-related metrics. Metrics, remember, you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So metrics, they help you with quality control and quality improvement. They're also there for you to have a concrete way of communicating with your stakeholders, what's working and what's not working. So they are related to quality management and they are related to communication management. So I just wanted to have this picture because earned value is a very recent topic, and I just wanted you to have that category of metrics in your mind. I trust that you can go over the items and they will all make sense to you. And then I'm going to stop here. Just again, a recap of what we've done in this class, what we've talked about. What's the table on the top left, Tian Yuan?
Yep.
What's the table on the left, top left?
You mean the top left? Okay, this is a table we, let me see. We created, yeah, the Burndown Chart and
the top left. I see that you're noticing burn down and burn up chart, but I want you to focus on the top left table and tell me, or give me a label. It can be close enough. It doesn't have to be the exact label. Anybody else has any ideas?
Is it the work breakdown structure?
It's very close to work breakdown structure, but it is not work breakdown structure. It has priority, it has story points. Story points are not times, they are relative complexities that describe how difficult or how hard an item or a feature is relative to other features. So this is a backlog, so your close shows tasks, their priority and their complexity. But it has some items in boldface. So that's 1.3.1, 3.21, and 4.11. Anybody notices anything special about those items? No? They are related to uncertainty, things that may not go as well as you plan them to go. So this is called a risk-adjusted backlog. Just wanted to show you an example of it. I believe in your practice test for the exam, there may be a question or two about risk-adjusted backlog. This is a question that could be asked of you during the first half of your exam. Multiple choice question, fill in blank, or true, false. This is not a short answer question. I just wanted to create this mindset that we talked about some items before the Corona crisis and some items after the Corona crisis, just putting everything back together, making sure we're all on the same page when it comes to the learning and also when it comes to preparing for the exam. Now the pictures on the bottom left, Mihal, what are those?
The bottom left would be the Burndown chart.
Yes, Burndown chart. Which one of them is showing a better progress, like a more desirable way of doing work? Andrew?
The top left one, because it's closest to ideal.
Exactly. The deviation from the ideal line is very little there. I'm gonna go to the next one on my list. Gauge, which one is doing worst?
Like the bottom left one.
The bottom left one. Is there anybody that's doing worse than that? If they're
the top right.
Top right one, why is that so?
Because near towards the end,
of the project, it shows that the effort remaining didn't touch to the ideal effort hours.
Exactly, they never finished the work. Exactly. So top right seems to be worse here. The bottom two, one of them is, both of them are behind the schedule all the time. One of them is hitting the schedule or the ideal line in the middle. One of them is always behind and goes much faster toward the end. Which one would you prefer? I'll let you think about that. But it's very clear that top left is doing the best, top right is not, because they don't finish the project. Remember, you have to finish. You have to have a working software. What do you see on the top or on the right side of the screen? What is that? I'm going to ask Isa, did you just talk?
Yes, I just brought that up about the top right burndown chart.
Yes, I noticed that. David K, would you want to talk? I have some chat items. I'm going to check them. My mic is not working. That's okay. Cliff, would you want to comment here?
What is your question again?
What is this?
Which one?
The one on the right. That's always my question. If you ever were in doubt what question I asked, just ask you, see, what is this?
What is it? So the scope project one, that one?
Yes, it talks about must have, should have, and could have.
I'm not really too sure. It kind of looks like it's breaking down. Not too sure.
This is a way for you to prioritize features on your backlog. So must-haves, the ones that you can't deliver a product without, should-haves still feel the same, but not as critical as the first one. So the first set are the core features. The second set are the essential preferred features. Could have the nice features and won't have the things that are clearly outside your scope. So this is Moscow. Do you remember Moscow? It was one of those items on your learning backlog, and this is how you do it. Now, who would say what is must have, what is should have, what is could? After doing your analysis, after talking to your stakeholders, you and your team will decide. Sometimes there is a little bit of work on your part to convince your stakeholders that some items are actually not should have or must have, they are could have. So there may be some work on your part to convince your stakeholders. Who wants to tell me here? This is a Burndown chart. Where is the scope is expanding or some rework is derailing the project? And this is the kind of question I asked you on the exam. This is on short answer section. So let's say the first question I'm telling you will be on the exam on the short answer section is a Burndown chart. You should be able to read that. Burndown starts at the top, burn downs the work to the zero. Where is summary work here? Going back to the top of the list, I have, did I lose some of you or am I just not seeing you? Let's see. Gauge, where is summary work? Or scope expansion?
Could you repeat the question?
What?
Could you repeat?
So somewhere between day 0 and 10, day 1 and 10, the scope, it seems that is expanding. You get more work. We don't know the reason. It could be some work that you've done and it wasn't at the quality they expected, or somehow the work is getting larger. Where is that?
Would it be at the 110 or at day 6?
This one?
Yeah.
So it's going from 93 story points to 110. For some reason, the work is getting bigger. There are many different reasons for this, and we've discussed those before, but if I ask you questions like this on the exam, you should be able to answer. Is the project behind or ahead of the ideal line, Tony?
Ahead or behind the ideal time. I'm guessing it's behind the ideal time because of the
Yes.
increase in work.
Yes, because your blue or the actual work is above the ideal. That's when you know you're behind the schedule. Keep in mind that burn up and burn down have something in reverse. So in burn up, if your line is above the ideal line, the actual is above, it means that you're going, you're always ahead of schedule. Here, it means you're behind the schedule because you're trying to get your curve lower and lower. You want to decrease, you want to burn. So if you're higher, it means that you're behind. And are you going faster or slower at the beginning? Generally, Mihal, average, is it faster or slower at the beginning?
I feel like in general it'd be slower at the beginning because you have more work ahead of you.
Exactly, and the lines are getting away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Is it generally faster or slower toward the end, Andrew?
I would say it's generally faster.
Exactly, because you're doing a lot more work and you see 95 to 63, that's 32 story points. That's a lot. And the lines are getting closer, they're converging, they're not diverging. So you're going faster. You should be able to read Burndown chart and Burn-up chart, and you should be able to answer these questions. So how about the cumulative flow diagram? What was the thing that we discussed about here? In cumulative flow diagram, this is an example you've done in your lab exercise. You use a color band to represent a column on your Kanban board. So this simple example is very similar to our Kanban board. You have completed, started, and not started. Now, started is when you have your work in progress. What was it? What was it that we focused on when we read cumulative flow diagram? Cliff?
What was the question?
What's the question? What do we care about in this diagram? I asked some specific questions when we did the lab exercise together. Isa, do you remember that? What we focused on here?
So basically what a cumulative flow diagram, it kind of gives you like a visualization of like the metrics of the flow of the project. So like how stable your flow is, how it helps you understand where to focus on in order to make like your project I guess more predictable, to see how much work you need to put into the project.
So anybody remembers WIP limit? What is WIP limit? Good job, Isa. Is that your work in progress is limited. So you don't want to overwhelm your team by putting items in the work in progress column. You want them to pull items from the backlog when they're ready. So and a pull system, meaning that they pull when they're ready, when they have open time. And when work in progress limit, they are two related concepts, both on your learning backlog. In this picture, a question I have asked you in the past, and I'm asking you here, do you think this group of people, this team, are respecting WIP limit? Do they have a limited number of items in work in progress section, which is the started section?
It looks like it is.
Yes. So this is a matter of opinion, unless I give you very obvious case. But in this case, you could say they are getting things under control. it's a little bit out of control at the beginning. It's getting wide, but they do a good job on limiting it. So if you say yes, or like me, you say, oh, I think that at the beginning they don't understand what they're doing, or you say, no, I don't think they're respecting it, otherwise they wouldn't overwhelm themselves with a lot of work at the beginning of the project. So yes, no, or maybe would be acceptable responses on the exam, as long as your logic shows me that you know what you're reading and you know what WIP limit is. Now, there are some cases in which there is only one answer, yes or no, like the WIP color band is widening. So in those cases, probably you would pick the right answer. But this is yes, no, or maybe depending on how you explain it, may work. And this is another picture. It shows this is WIP. And this is the item from the time it was introduced to your scope to the time they were out in the completed section. Who remembers this? What is it? Weighted shortest job first. This is the first activity we did together, I think, after Corona. Anybody remembers this? Okay, in weighted shortest job first, you look at the duration of each task and you look at their cost of delay. And you get a weight. Look at the third column. Let's focus on the table at the right of the screen. You get a weight, and the weight is cost of delay divided by duration. And the higher the weight, the higher the priority of the task. So in this case, A has 10 divided by 1 equals to 10. Highest weight, highest priority. Then B is 1, then C is 0.1. Means that your optimal sequence would be A, B, C. The one with the highest weight would be completed first. That is when your WIP limit is 1, meaning that you work only on one task at a time, and these depend on each other. Now, the pictures on the left, one is showing ABC, which is the order that we would recommend. One is showing CVA, the order that's random. And it calculates the cost of delay in the first case, which is 4 total. And it calculates the cost of delay for the other one, which is much larger. So in the exam, I will give you a table like this. I'll ask you to give me the optimal sequence, which would be ABC or BCA, depending on the weights. And then I would ask you to calculate cost associated with another random sequence, okay? Now, if you don't remember how we calculated these things, don't worry, I'm gonna go over an example from last year. So we're gonna do an example and I'll do that at the end. Or maybe I'll stop and do it here. Let me just stop and let you work on this example. I think from your quietness, it seems that most of you have forgotten. So this is the example from last year. I'm going to delete what I have from what we did during the last section. You don't see it because I haven't shared. I'm going to show you here. Do you see it? It doesn't seem so. Do you see my example?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and this is the bigger version of it. So go ahead, work on this. Give me the optimal sequence. So first, calculate weight, which is cost of delay divided by duration. And then you know that the higher the weight, the higher the priority. Go ahead, work on this for a minute. And then we're gonna do the calculation for cost. All right, anybody has the answers?
I believe I do.
Okay, Mihal, I'll let you read and I write.
So
Weight.
A would have a weight of 1
Why is that so?
because 6 divided by 6 is 1.
Exactly.
B would have a weight of 4 because 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then C would have a weight of 2 because 8 divided by 4 is 2.
All right, thank you. Tianyuan, which one of them will you do first? What's the optimal sequence?
I will do the B first,
Yes, then?
then the C, and last the A.
Perfect. BCA. Okay, I want you to do the cost associated with BCA and if we did BHC. So remember for the cost, and I may push this back up a little bit. This is exam from last semester class. Feel free to go work on it. And I'm gonna actually ask you to work on this. This is on your exam tab. But I'm gonna just use a few examples from this exam today. So I'm gonna push this back up so you have everything on the same screen. And then I'm gonna ask you to complete this table with me. I'm gonna insert the table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all right, I'm gonna put tasks. If you want to do a paper pencil version of this with me, that's great. A, B, C, or I'm gonna put the order that you gave me, Tian Yuan gave me. B, C, A, then wait time. This is wait time, cost of delay, and then we're gonna do a total here at the bottom. And then you're gonna do, I'm gonna just do the same for the other sequence. So it's for you is B, A, C. And then we're gonna do a total here. Total cost. And then I'm gonna bring this back together so we can watch this one. I'm gonna color it so we have something in the middle. So, and this is okay, I think I'm good. I'm gonna give the control to Isa. Isa, go ahead and start working on this after I give you control. Give me the wait time and the cost of delay if we do BCA according to Tianyuan's recommendation. So B is done first, there is no wait time, 0. C has to wait for B. B takes 5 days, so 5 days of wait time. A is waiting for B and C, total of 9 days. Perfect. Now cost of delay would be 0 for the first one, B. C is 5 times the cost of delay, which is 8. 5 times 8. And A is waiting 9 days and cost of delay is 6. 9 times 6. 54. The total would be 94. Did we do the calculation correctly? Everybody is following us? Are we doing it correctly? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna go to, who is on my list? I'm gonna go to Andrew. Andrew, you go ahead and do it for BAC. B is 0 because it's the first time. A is waiting for B. B is taking 5 days. C is waiting for A and B. That's total of 11 days. Cost of delay is 0 for the first one. 5 times 6 for the second one. Exactly. And 11 times 8, which is 88 for the other one. Total of 118. Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Isa. Thank you, Tianyuan and Mihal and everybody who participated in this example. So as you're seeing, if we go by Tianyuan recommendation, we're actually getting a lower cost. And that's what we do. We take into account the information that's given to us and we use that for prioritization of our tasks. So well done, class. Again, this is an example from your exam repository I have shared on Reginet, Fall 2019, Exam 2. All right, going back to my PowerPoint slides and a set of items that we want to cover today. We talked about critical path analysis. Do you have me on my PowerPoint slides? Perfect. So we talked about critical path. What is a critical path? It's the longest path from the beginning to the end. It's all the tasks on the critical path are called critical tasks. If they are delayed, the whole project is delayed. There is no slack there. The other one, the activities not on your critical path are called non-critical activities or non-critical tasks. They can be delayed. There is a slack for them. How many days we need to calculate? This is a more recent example that we've done together, but if we have time, we're going to do it once more together today, looking at older exams. But to calculate the slack, we scan the diagram from beginning to the end. We put early start and early finish numbers. When we go from left to right or from beginning to the end, if we have a task that depends on some other task, the early start for this task would be the larger number among the early finish of the tasks before this one, because it means that before I can start, earliest I can start this one is the earliest my latest predecessor will take to finish. So, and then you do one more time from the end to the beginning, you come up with two numbers, late start and late finish. This time you're going to pick the late finish first and do late start but late finish minus duration. Late finish for a given task would be the earliest or the smaller number among late start of all the successors. So the successor, the two activities come after this one. First one, the late start is 10. The other one, the late start is 9. The late finish for the current task would be 9, the smaller number, because one of the other activities that comes after it needs this one to be completed on day 9. It's hard to do this if you haven't done this with me. So we have to do one example today together. And if you want it, if you see this video not live, make sure you make an appointment with me and go over this with me. It's a very important part of your exam. And what I suggest is that when you get a table like this is what we did together with the students who've been with me in the class. We're going to create a diagram, and then we're going to find the lengthiest path or the longest path from beginning to end. We would highlight them as critical paths. We would highlight all the critical activities, and then we go from beginning to end, early start, early finish, end to the beginning, latest start, and late finish. And then we would look at the difference between the two sets of numbers, between the latest start and early start, or between the late finish and early finish. That would give us a slide. It's very hard to imagine how we've done it if you haven't done it before. So I'm going to come back and do one example at the end of the session today. And I'm going to come here. This is an example of something that you haven't done before. Do your best, class. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Oh, 10 seconds to 10 seconds to read and maybe a minute to think. And then I'm going to give you the solution. This will be a question on the exam. This is the first time we're discussing it officially, but we have talked about cycle time. Your guest lecturer has talked about velocity. So, but officially this is the first time. So go ahead, pick the numbers, write them down, and then you have 1 minute to give me your best guess. All right, any guesses? I'm going to share a whiteboard. And then first thing I want to say, based on the Agile principle of pooling and trusting your team, you don't want to overwhelm them. So you look at what they have done in the past. In the past 6 sprints, you see the number of stories they have completed, stories completed. How do you know how many stories they can complete during this current sprint? You get the average, and that's a good indication. Usually, and you're gonna get the average velocity. Stories per sprint is velocity here. You could do velocity at other levels, but you're gonna do it at sprint level. So you're gonna get the average velocity, and I have written the numbers. They did 15 stories during the first sprint. They did 10. The next one, they did 20. After that, they did 15. They did 20 during sprint 5 and another 10 during 6th sprint. Divide this by 6. That's a good indication for you to use. This is average velocity of your team. You can trust this number, and that's 5 story points. So this is the average velocity you can expect from your team. Yes. Now the second idea I'm using here. So the first one was this: you have to know your team, and this is all the information you have in front of you. The second one is that anybody has an answer, you want to unmute themselves and talk about the answer. 3 story points. So story 1 has 3 story points, 2 1 story points. 3 story points, 4, 5 story points. Anybody has an answer?
Can we see the like full chart again with like the options?
No, you can give me the options now. Right now I'm writing. Do you
Okay.
have an answer close? Like, tell me your answer. I know what's the correct answer is. Do you have an answer?
I know that the second one added up to 13 story points. I just wanted to add up the third one again to see if it was closer to 15.
Sure, I'm gonna show you then.
I think the one that added up to 15 was 1, 2, 3, and 5.
I'll show you. Just to be consistent. All right, I'm gonna show you everyone. This is the question I had here. What's your answer, Madison and Mihal? I'm gonna go back to my whiteboard while you're thinking. So the second idea is that backlog is by definition a list of prioritized items, meaning that the items at the top are more important. You know the capacity of your team is 15. You're gonna take item 1, 2, story number 3, story number 4. And that's gonna add up to how much? 12. Adding 5 would overwhelm your group because you know the average velocity is 15. So you're gonna skip that and you're gonna get 6. So 6 plus this will appear on your sprint 7's backlog. So sprint 7 will include 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So 2 ideas were discussed here. First is that you have to know your team, what they're able to do. That's when you look at their history and get an average. Second, backlog is a prioritized list. So you go from the top to the bottom, unless there is a reason like this one, it overwhelms your team with too much work. So going back here, there will be example on your exam, and you will see more questions like this on my prior semester's exam if you look at them. So moving on, again, another question that you haven't seen in the past. If your average cycle time is 2.5 days per story, cycle time. So just making sure everybody remembers. First of all, I'm gonna delete the answers, just one part, and remind everybody what cycle time and lead time are, and then we're gonna go back. So here, a work is added. This is feature or user story added to your scope or backlog. And then this is the time you finish it. You complete. The difference between the two is your lead time. This is your lead. But you were not working on this item all along, no. You just started working somewhere here maybe, depending on how complex the story was. You started working on it. So then that becomes your cycle time. So cycle would be from the time you started working to the time it ends. For you, your Kanban is very simple. From the time it goes to the middle column, work in progress, to the time it goes to the completed column. That's cycle time. But people, if they have multiple columns, they can have cycle time for each of those columns. Analysis cycle time, design cycle time, testing cycle time, so on. So cycle time is time. Velocity, as you notice here, so this is the unit of measurement is time. How many days it takes to get a story out of this phase. And remember, this is average. Some of them take longer, some of them take shorter. Excuse me. Velocity, on the other hand, is, what is the unit? Story points per your unit, whatever that unit is. Here was for a sprint. So you can do velocity for other levels, but this is for sprints or iterations. So here, going back to the questions I have for you, and this is the first time you're seeing this kind of questions, so don't be alarmed, you're not alone. So the first one is saying that if our average cycle time is 2.5 days per story, so on average it takes 2.5 to get a story out of this phase, then the velocity for a 2-week cadence, 10 working day is 4. Why? Because 10 working days divided by 2.5, it can give you on average 4 story points completed if you have 10 days. This is just average. Now you answer the second question for me. If the average cycle time is 3 days, what would be the velocity for a 21 workday sprint? I'm waiting for your answer. 3 days for each story, and then you have 21 days. What is the velocity?
7.
Exactly. Thank you, Tianyuan. It's 7. So 21 divided by 3 is 7. This is your velocity. Now going to the next question. These are 2 different types of question. One is giving you cycle, asking for velocity, and the other doing the opposite. If a team produces 15 stories in 10 working days, then the cycle time is 2 divided by 3. Why? Because you have 10 days. In 10 days, remember, cycle time is time. So you look at 10 days divided by 15 story points. It gives you 0.67 of the cycle time. Your average story stays in your phase for about 0.7 of a working day, 70% of a working day. Now do the next example for me. A team completed 16 stories in 12 working days. What's the average cycle time for the 12 working day period? So again, you put the time at the top because cycle time is about time. Who has an answer here?
Would it be 3/4 or 0.75?
Exactly. You had 12 days, you got 16 stories done. That's a quarter, 3/4, yes? 3/4 of a day. So keep in mind that in these cases, the number of stories was larger than the number of days you had. So you have good cycle times, very short cycle times. But if I told you it took 12 days to complete 6 stories, you would say 12 divided by 6, and the cycle time would be 2, because it took on average 2 days to get a story point out of your phase. So these are 2, they were on your learning period, but I didn't explicitly talk about them. These are examples I'm going to put out here for you to think about. There is another example I have here. It's a little more complicated, but just play with it and see if you like it. The reason I don't go through the example is because it talks about bottles of juice, and the original example was bottle of wine. I have the link, you can look it up. But students, it's hard for them to think about a bottle of juice being half full and you opening up a new bottle of juice. Like for our sprints, we can think about having multiple activity features not complete, and then we bring in a new feature. This is very understandable for us because these features, they have to wait for something, or some specific person is working on them and another person brings in another new feature. But when I discussed this bottle of juice example, a student were thinking that they should finish a bottle of juice before they open a new one. And that's not the case, and that's not how the averaging works. So I choose not to discuss that today because we don't have the face-to-face session, but go through that if you like. A little bit of brain exercise. Earned value analysis, actual cost, planned cost. This is the most recent item we've done. We actually did an example last Monday. If you're watching this video not live and you haven't done earned value analysis with me, just know that this is a question on your exam. It takes time, but it's very straightforward if you do it once or twice with me. So please go ahead, sign up for those office hours on Friday or on Thursday and come back, do an example with me during our synchronous meetings next week. So for those of you who've been here, I'm just going to go through it fast. Cost variance, the difference between earned value and actual cost. The number is negative, you're over budget, you know that. Cost performance index is like you divide earned value by actual cost. The number is less than 1, it means that the project is over budget. The number means for every dollar you spend, you get 75 cents worth of work completed. Those are those word bubbles. Schedule variance, the difference between earned and planned. Again, if it's negative, you're behind the schedule. Schedule performance index, earned divided by plan, number less than 1, you're behind the schedule. For every dollar you had planned to complete, you only completed 60 cents worth of work. ETC and EAC, ETC, expected time to complete would be how much do I need to spend from now till the end of the project. So if the variances are typical, if the problems will persist, you get the total budget at completion is BAC minus the value earned so far divided by CPI, or in our case we say multiply by 1 over CPI. Expected time to complete would be that number that you just calculated plus, no, this is the same number in case variances disappear. So you don't do that division by CPI or multiply by 1 over CPI. So the same number only for the case when your issues are resolved. Estimate at completion would be the number that you end up spending on this project. So would be what you have spent so far plus what you expect to spend from now till the end of the project. And that was for the case when the issues persist. This is for a case that the issues are resolved. This is an example. I have shown this chart to my students in the past. If you see this is this given point in time, you do the vertical line, you cross earned value, planned value, actual cost. The difference between earned and planned is your schedule variance. The difference between earned and actual is your cost variance. Now this much work has been accomplished here. Look at this red when it crosses the point of time. This is T2. Okay, T2, you're here. But actually, if you go back and you cross the planned value curve, you want it to be at that level at time T1. So T2 minus T1 is time behind. So schedule variance, it shows you're behind the schedule, but it measures it in dollars. But time behind is actually the time. You will need to compensate for the work not done. Schedule variance is the money you need to compensate for the work not done. So in the past, I have given my students this chart and I've asked them to label these areas. So be prepared to answer questions like this on your exam. This is a more elaborate version. I think I'm good with this. Any other questions from the class? Class, do you have questions? If not, if one of you please unmute yourself and talk to me so I know we're alive.
No
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, no questions. It's
No
fine.
question. So right now I'm gonna try to find an exam to do a critical path analysis with you. If you have any random questions, ask me while I'm doing my search. Random, non-random questions. So I'm gonna look for exam 1 because I think exam 1, yes. We're gonna start working on this class I'm gonna show you this. Okay, class, very briefly. Just so you get, this is exam 1, fall 2019. And this is the question about critical path analysis. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy this table and I'll copy the whole question and put it on the worksheet that I gave you for critical path analysis so we can use the worksheet. If you don't have the worksheet, it's on Reginet. Go ahead and download it, critical path analysis worksheet. So I'm gonna open my worksheet and add this one.
Professor, I think you mute yourself.
Yeah, I just muted for some reasons and I'm gonna, like you, go to Reginet and download that activity sheet. I don't have a clear version of it. My versions are all written on. So why don't you all go to Reginet with me? I'm gonna share my Reginet page. So in case you're not aware where that thing is it shared? Do you see Tianyuan? Do you see my Reginet page?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to the view as a student. And this is the activity sheet I'm talking about, home example. So go ahead and download that. I need a clean version. And that is gonna be for FA 19 exam 1. Okay, I'm gonna open that. And I don't think you see it, but I'm gonna show it to you. And I'm gonna replace the table with the question from exam 1. I'm gonna keep the guidelines. I'm gonna give you about 10 minutes. No, 10 minutes is too much. 5 minutes to start working on this and then we do it together. So if you haven't done this in the past, this would help you do it with us. I assume everyone with me knows these guidelines, so I'm gonna cut these guidelines, put them at the bottom of the screen. And then I'm gonna get these ones up. These ones up. Okay, go ahead, look at the question, look at the examples, and we'll do this together, all right? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back. All right, in the interest of time, I'm gonna slowly work on this one of you at a time. Andrew, why don't you do the first task for us? First, A and B, please. Just gonna slowly move it forward. I'm gonna help you. Ellie finished 6. Perfect. B. That's good for B. Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to give control to next one on my list is Tony. Tony, could you please do C and D? I'm going to move things upper so we have a space.
Would the time be put to the right of the letters? Like,
Yes. Go ahead. C and D.
I mean, it wasn't put in A or B, like right there.
Oh, duration. Go ahead. Do the duration. 6
Okay.
and 4. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, for C and D. Okay. C is, which is 3, and D, which is 2. Okay. Early start would be,
Can you do the links as well?
sure, 9.
You have to show dependencies before we can, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'll
C
get that
depends
now.
on B only.
Oh. I see.
So it's a better idea to do the links first so you know which one this task depends on. So
C shapes, arrow. Okay. B depends on C, or C depends on B, I mean.
exactly. So early start of C would be early finish of B.
Yeah, I see it. That needs to be 4.
4
And
and
then
7.
7.
Perfect.
And D needs both of them. Okay. Okay, so that goes for the biggest one, which is actually 6.
Exactly. D depends on B and A. Early finish of A is 6. Early finish of B is 4. You get the larger number. Perfect. Well done, Tony. I'm going to go to the next student on the list, who is going to be Mihal. Mihal, go ahead, do the next 2 activities, and I'm going to move things around. So we are at D. We need E, depends on D, and F depends on C, can be up here. And we have G, which depends on F. It can go to a second layer. So maybe this is the best we can do for the space, I think. Unless we move this a little bit higher. No, it doesn't help. And yeah, it can move higher. Okay. So do you have, Mihal? I'll let you draw. That's E depends on A, and E depends on D only. Duration 6. And then gets the early finish of the predecessor, becomes early start of this one. Perfect, well done. 14. Go ahead, do F, depends on C. When you have only one task before this one, you just get their early finish. If you have two, you get the larger early finish. Perfect, early start of F is the early finish of C. And then we have G that depends on F. G depends on F only, early start of G would be early finish of F. Perfect, 9 plus 10 becomes 19. That's how you get early finish. Thank you, Mihal. Before I go to the next one on my list, I'm gonna add some of these circles for our network. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is going to be G, you have done. H depends on F. So it can go here, H. And I depends on B, can stay there, which is great. Can stay here. I, J depends on E, G, and H. So it can stay here. So I'm gonna, I'm sorry, I should have had a blank one. So these are supposed to be added by the next one of you. And this one. So, and I'm gonna do like this one, get a copy of this one. We Control V, and this one can stay here. I think we're good. So I'm gonna give control to Tony. Just did it. Mihal did. David K, go ahead, do H, I, J, and end of phase. That's a milestone, 0 duration. So do the location. So this one would be a good choice for H because it's close to F. You have control? No, don't click anywhere else, please. Just click here. Go to the right. Do you have a system? Are you on your, do you have a mouse? Can you move things around? Or do you prefer me to ask someone else?
I don't think you're able to unmute while you're like taking control. I wasn't able to. I was trying to in the middle of the last one.
Okay,
So.
I'm gonna because if you write in chat, I don't hear it, David K. I don't know your situation, so I'm gonna go give control to Isa. Isa, do H, I, J, and EOP. Because sometimes if you are on a pad, not a real mouse, it's really hard to work. H depends on F, taking 6, connected to F first. Then early startup, H becomes early, it's equal to early finish of F. So earliest F can finish is 9. Earliest I can start this one is 9. 9 plus 6, 15. And I go to the left for I. Yes, perfect. We are working with the space. So I depends on B. B earlier finish is 4. I earlier finish becomes 4. 4 plus 2, 16. J is taking 3 days and depends on E, G, and H. So you're going to look at the early finish of E, which is 14. Early finish of G is 19. Early finish of H is 15. So the largest is 19. You're going to put 19 there because it meets all those three. And the latest one is done on day perfect. This one is the milestone. So 0 duration. So put yes and 0. It's just a decoration like the one we had in our work breakdown structure. And it has to wait for I and J. I and J have to be done. The earliest this one can be done is 19. Just like the milestone that we would add to work breakdown structure, it has duration of 0, but it still had the dependencies. 22, or no, early finish is 22. No, 22, I'm sorry. I look at the earliest start. Perfect. Now, Isa, if you let me, I'm going to take control back. Okay. And I'm going to check my chat to see what I have here because I can't check. So I won't be able to access unmute. Sorry, I couldn't write. It's okay. Sure, that's okay. We have it done. Now, what's the critical path? Who can highlight the critical path for me? The longest path. Because the question said, shade the nodes on the critical path. This is the first step, doing the map. Shade, and then what is the minimum time to complete this project? Obviously, this is 22 and going back. So this is 22, and if you can catch me, I am doing something wrong, let me know. I'm gonna try to do it myself. So here, I'm gonna go to here. This is 22, that's the minimum amount. No, I don't want that. I wanted the format here. This is 1, and then 22 comes from here. That's, and then from here, which one was the longest? Do I have to go here, you think? And then here. Like you, I'm just trying. It seems that it's so long ago I did it. So this one. And this one. This one. B doesn't depend on A. So everybody agrees with me. Is this the critical path? B, C, F, G, J. Is it 4?
Could you also add D and A to that?
I'm
Because
just,
D
yes.
depends on B, and then A depends on, or D depends on A.
So it's another path. Let me look at this. This is 22. Which one is your suggestion, Mihal?
Oh no, I was incorrect. I was looking at the arrows backwards.
So this is the critical path, and it's 22. That's the minimum amount of time you need to finish the project. We're gonna add no buffer, the discussion of buffer beyond the scope of this class. We're just gonna say we're gonna finish in day 22. Now going from end to the beginning class, we need to calculate a slack for task D. You need it for this question. But, yeah, and then you need it for this question too. So we're gonna do early finish and late finish, and this is gonna be a really good example for everyone to watch in the not live version of this video. I'm gonna go to Madison. Madison, can you please do late start, late finish for a few? Maybe you do it for J, H, J and I. So late finish would be the latest start of the subsequent, which is the milestone is 22 for J. Madison, are you getting control? Are you able to write? No? I don't see you taking control. I'm gonna go to Cliff. Cliff, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not really sure how to do that
Have
part.
you done it once?
I have not.
Okay, then try to do it. If you're not sure, we'll help you. So
Okay.
when you go from the end to the beginning, you start with putting the numbers late finish. The late finish would be the latest start of the task after this one. So when you look at J, the only thing after it is end of phase, which is the milestone, and latest start of that is 22. So put 22 as the late finish of J.
Oh, late finish?
Mm-hmm. So you first put that number, the latest start becomes late finish minus duration.
So 19 goes here?
Yes. So as you see, these two sets of number are the same. No surprise, because this is a critical activity. There is no slack. And that's how you know that when you do the numbers. Go
Okay.
to I, Cliff. I. So late finish of this one becomes the late start of the one. So that becomes 22. And the latest start becomes late finish minus duration.
So that would be 16 goes there?
22 minus 12, duration is 12, becomes 10.
Oh, okay.
So here you see that early start and late start, they have 6 days of difference. And that's how you know you have 6 days of a slack for this given task. Now go to H, Cliff. So late finish of this one. So what comes after this one? Only J. And the late finish for J is 22. The latest start, I'm sorry, latest start for J is 19. So it's going to be the latest H can finish. So the latest H can finish is 19. 19 plus 6 becomes 13.
13.
So as you see, there is a difference between latest start and late finish, early start and early finish, and that number is 4. You have 4 days of slack here. Now, because this is your first time, Cliff, let's go do G together.
Okay.
So what comes after G? It comes J. The latest start of J is 19. You put that 19 there. 19 minus 10, 9. And you see there is no difference. That means there is no slack, no surprise. This is a critical task. Well done, Cliff. I'm gonna go to the next student who hasn't done any work yet, or some of you have left because of other classes. So Isa, why don't you go ahead and do F, E, and D. So, yes. So if latest start for F, no. F, what is after F? G and H. The G has latest start of 9, H has latest start of 13. You get the smaller number 9. Perfect, you get the smaller number. 9 minus 2, 7. Again, you see that there is no slack. What comes after D, after E is J. So the latest start of J is 19. You get 19, you put that as a late finish of this one. 19 minus 6 becomes 13. You have 5 days of slack here. So after D comes E. So exactly, you get the late. Perfect. Thank you, Isa. I'm going to go to Tony. Or maybe Tian Yuan. Tony has done it. Tian Yuan, go ahead.
Yep.
You're next.
So B, right?
Do I have, where are you? Why can I not see you here? Let me see. I want
I
to.
use my phone, so yeah, do you remember?
Oh, I don't even have a choice to give you control.
Yeah, so I can see it, and if you can tap it, this will be good.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to do B with Tian Yuan.
Okay, so the
Or C. What comes after C?
comes after C is D.
It's F.
Oh yeah, you mean the crypto? Oh, okay.
Late.
So it's gonna be 7 for the
Exactly, 7 minus 3.
and minus 3 is gonna be 4.
How
And
about
this
B?
it's gonna be 4 for the left.
Because there is this one and
Yeah,
this
later.
one, you get the smaller number 4 minus 4, 0. And this one, it has D after it. The smaller number, the only number is 11, becomes 5. So you see there is a slack here, there is a slack here, there is a slack here, there, and there. And that's how you know these activities are non-critical. Class, I'm just going to wrap up this section very quickly. What is the slack for task D? So Cliff, you're new to this. For slack, you look at the difference between these two numbers or these two numbers. It doesn't matter which one. The difference between early finish, late finish, or early start, late start. So the slack is 5 days. What happens if task E takes 1 day less? Because it's non-critical, nothing happens. Yes? If it was critical, it takes 1 day less, it would decrease your project duration by 1, probably, not certainly. But in this case, nothing happens. And this is all the work you need to do to answer the questions I give you on the exam, okay? I'll share these files with you if you want to. So this was critical path example. I'm just gonna do a quick review. There was a question on Burndown and Burndown chart. There will be a question on weighted shortest job first. There will be a question about cumulative flow diagram. There will be a question about velocity and cycle time. And there will be a question about earned value analysis. With that, I'm gonna let you work on your exams. The sample exams that I have given you. Also, please note that there is 100 question test banks that we took from that book that is used for your discussion 3. The document that has the 100 question, it's on Reginet and has been shared with you on the exam tab. All the links, all the information has been posted on the page that you see when you log in. The only thing missing is the exam dates. You should see that on your myillinoisstate.edu. I'll post that very soon. Make sure you sign up for informal demo times during the last week. Make sure you know your quizzes deadline that are upcoming this Sunday. I'm gonna let you ask me question now. Questions, Tony, Tianyuan, Cliff, Isa, or Mihal?
No questions.
Yes. No questions. Anybody? Okay, then have a great evening. I'll see you during the office hours on Thursdays or Friday, or I'll see you on Monday during the regular class time. Take care.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jawadi.
Thank you, you too.
So for the office hour,